10 years ago, it's now February 2021. In February 2011, exactly 10 years ago, there was another bitter cold snap that hit Texas. And just like now, 10 years ago, Texas's power grid could not handle it. Their ability to generate power collapsed because of the cold, just as demand spiked for power to provide heat. And in 2011, just like now, the grid collapsed and Texas had power blackouts rolling across the state. And after that happened in 2011, for all the danger and life-threatening conditions that created, the National Power Regulator, FERC, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, did a 300-plus page report on what went wrong in the cold weather event in Texas on February 1st through 5th, 2011. And FERC told Texas in that report that the Texas power grid was absolutely vulnerable to that happening again whenever the state had unusually cold temperatures, because the Texas power infrastructure was not designed to operate in the cold. FERC told them 10 years ago they needed to winterize and insulate the power generating infrastructure in the state of Texas, or it would happen again when it got cold again. And that wasn't exactly a rocket science level recommendation. This has been a recurring thing. Even before it happened in 2011, it happened 12 years before that. 1989, cold snap in Texas, power grid collapse. They had blackouts. 2011, cold snap in Texas, power grid collapse. They had blackouts. FERC was like, yeah, this isn't that difficult. You need to insulate stuff. We know it's not always cold, but when it is, you can't afford to have the power go out. People will die. You have to winterize and insulate your power generating and distribution infrastructure so everything doesn't freeze solid and fall over and break when it's cold, which is when people really need there to be power. Well, Texas shrugged that off because they can. Every other state in the country actually has to answer to FERC, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. Every other state in the country has to answer to them in terms of federal regulations for America's power supply. Texas doesn't. Texas is alone in the continental United States in having its own standalone Texas-only power grid. They have it purposely never convey any power across any state lines. So there isn't any interstate activity that could legally be regulated by the federal government. So the federal government cannot regulate anything about Texas power production and distribution. And so Texas power and distribution falls apart in the cold. They run it the Texas way. They don't like regulations. They don't like requirements about being resilient in bad weather, despite their previous examples, their previous experience of living through exactly this sort of thing. After the fiasco in 2011 and those recommendations from FERC, Texas announced some best practices for all its power producers. But that's just what they were, best practices. It didn't actually require any of them to do anything. And so Texas's power producers didn't do anything. And now Texas is reliably a state where the power turns off, sometimes for days on end, when the state gets cold weather. Hey, thanks for watching our YouTube channel. You should know that you can follow today's top stories and breaking news and catch up on your favorite MSNBC shows all in one place. Download the NBC News app today.